Welcome to the 2-Act Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, gothjon. Who else am I speaking with?
Hello, Chooms. I'm your other co-host, Adi.
I like that. That was very clever. You got down with the lingo. I like that. All right, we're going to be having a discussion about Cyberpunk Edgerunners from 2022, made by Studio Trigger. General plot synopsis, not ChatGPT recorded or anything like that. But I like this from Wikipedia. It isn't too over the top or anything, but I'll even do my narrator voice. In a dystopia overrun by corruption, crime, and cybernetic implants, an impulsive but talented street kid named David Martinez, after losing everything he is in a drive-by shooting, makes the choice to survive on the wrong side of the law as an edge runner, a high-tech, black market mercenary known as a cyberpunk. Do you like that?
Nailed the intro. You know, you need to be the new trailer guy.
Oh, that guy's so retired by now. Thank God, because it was so overdone. Yeah, so this anime is based in the universe of Cyberpunk 2077, like that type of universe, made by Mike Podsmith. I think that's his name. He made the original pen and paper game, Cyberpunk 2020 or something like that. And so it's like based off a novel, based off a book, based off a game. And now this has a lot to encapsulate a lot of like the Cyberpunk universe in Night City. It has a lot of good vibes. A lot of feel like something like anything in the Cyberpunk genre, like Ghost in the Shell, or you like what's that movie we were talking about a couple of podcasts ago with Ryan Gosling in it?
Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah. Blade Runner. It's very Blade Runner-esque.
Very
like
Blade
you said,
Runner-esque.
There's a lot of slang, like Choom, Delta, that's Preem, Nova. I tried so damn hard to incorporate these slang terms in my like regular vocabulary, just so people give me like weird looks.
Were you successful?
Not at all. So Cyberpunk 2077 was it's a fun game. Had a great story.
I think we should talk about what happened with the game. Don't you think?
Yeah. So CG Project Red, Polish-based gaming studio, decided to take the big Herculean task of producing a cyberpunk game in the year 2077. So they ended up doing that. They released a teaser that they're working on it, and then finally a trailer came out a couple years later, and then they're like, all right, so this game's going to come out when it's ready. And then for a couple of years, we were like, you guys still working on that game? And then like a couple years later, like the 7th year, they finally released like a release date, and then they pushed back that release date, and then they pushed it back again. And then when the game finally came out, to nobody's surprise, or only my surprise because of how hyped I was for this game, the game came out in a buggy mess. If you tried to play it on like the previous gen consoles, it was almost unplayable. Like I think like the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One X, you were like having like crazy bugs, like you can only run at like 20-30 frames or something like that.
Yeah, there was an insane amount of frustration from the gaming community when this game practically was unplayable in console. But there was so much anticipation because, again, it's a cyberpunk game set in the future. That's always popular with a lot of people, and it had Keanu Reeves featuring in it. But I do remember the whole thing, and of course, I think one of my friends who had a crazy PC, he's probably the only guy who was able to play it that I know of back in the day. Like literally, no one else I knew could play the game. But it's an interesting journey for this game to have that sort of a start, and then for now for it to be featured in this anime from Netflix and Studio Trigger.
Studio Trigger, known as the studio that left Studio Gainax and formed their own studio. So Studio Gainax is known for things like Neon Genesis Evangelion, Tenga Toppa Gurren Lagann, Fooly Cooly, like all these crazy wacky shows. And you're thinking, okay, this studio is going to take up this anime. And now this studio has since, before this anime, made Little Witch Academia, Space Patrol Luluco. Now all this is off the top of my head because I've seen all these shows.
Kill la Kill.
Yep, Kill la Kill. And before this, their last project before they started this studio, was Panty and Stocking with Garter Belt, which is one of my favorite animes. Like,
isn't it making a new season or something?
Oh yeah. They're doing season 2. They announced it at I think it was like Anime Expo, which I wish I could have went to, but just wasn't in the cards. In fact, this anime won Anime of the Year in the 2023 Crunchyroll Anime Awards, and it somehow beat Attack on Titan and Demon Slayer.
Wow, that is quite an achievement considering those other two are probably the most popular animes in the past 5 years or something.
Which was it was amazing. Like, so I'm sure Demon Slayer swept all the rest of the awards, but it's whatever. And then there's a lot of like cool music in this anime. It kind of feels like a game in a little bit.
It does.
In fact, they incorporated some of the music from the anime inside the game at a later update, which was really cool. Like, I've gone to play Cyberpunk 2077 a couple of times. Now, since they released the DLC, I think it was called Phantom Liberty, that had Idris Elba in it and all that cool stuff. They put the music back in, and I was like walking around in Night City, and then I hear Stay at Your House, and I'm like, oh, I love this song. I'm going to go stand on the speaker.
Yeah, I'm sure this anime probably helped save the game a bit in terms of like getting people back to play
just
it.
Like Fallout.
Just like Fallout, and continuing this trend of video game adaptations to media. I think it's great to see an original take on this material, which is set in the same world as the game, which is Night City. And opening thoughts, what did you think about it?
So this is a rewatch for me. I tried to watch it in Japanese, but then I got sidetracked, and I was like, okay, we got to go back to English because I love Rebecca's voice. Opening thoughts, it's a good rewatch. In fact, I bumped up my score because of the rewatch. Originally, I think I gave it like a 7, and we'll see what I end up on. But
all right, cool. Yeah, I watched it for the first time, so for me, completely new experience. In fact, I didn't even until just before I started it, I didn't even realize or know that it was a continuation of the Cyberpunk world. So that was exciting. And I got to say, this show felt like being hit by a truck. It was crazy. I mean, it's an attack on the sensations. Because,
I totally understand that. It's very flashy and very bombastic.
Yeah, it doesn't draw any punches, and not for the lighthearted. But Fallout still is kind of, I would say it's a lot more balanced out. Not as shocking at times, but this one really goes at it.
It's everything to the extreme. So the Cyberpunk universe is the corporations, they own everything and everyone. And so much so that whenever you're fighting a gang, maybe they were hired by Arasaka, or they were hired by Militech, or they are hired by another faction inside the world.
Yeah, and this world is set in a dystopian Californian district, and I believe Night City is the poorest and the most dangerous of the districts in this world. So I felt like this anime. First of all, I did watch the first episode subbed, and it was all over the place. I did not enjoy that experience. I felt like there was too much to pick up on, and I just didn't have. I just felt like I couldn't really read the sub, read the dialogue, and then pay attention to what's happening on frame because there's so much happening, and I had to instantly switch to the dub. And the dub was a lot better of an experience personally. But yeah, they had some great voice actors, and obviously a lot of people are gonna recognize Giancarlo Esposito, a favorite in the Breaking Bad universe.
Yeah. No,
just doing Giancarlo Esposito things.
Yeah, he's when you hear his voice in the dub, you're just like, wait a minute, I know that voice. And then you go look it up and you're like, oh, that's the guy from Breaking Bad. That's awesome. It's kind of like when you get
iconic.
The J. Jonah Jameson guy. When you get him in animated stuff, you're just like, I know that voice.
J.K. Simmons, yeah.
Yep, the J.K. Simmons guy. I always forget his name. But, I really like the music in the show. And there's, like I said, that song, I Really Want to Stay at Your House. I've listened to that song way after I stopped watching the anime. And now I have to listen to it another 20 times this week because of this anime. Music in Edgerunners it's a good compliment. Sometimes
I love the soundtrack.
Yeah.
The soundtrack was great and complemented the visuals. It's something that there's two distinct soundtracks that I really liked. One was obviously the song that plays at the end, and there's another one that I don't know, it's more of an outro, but it plays often during conflicts that occur at various points in the story. So I love the soundtrack. You can really see that this is a high quality anime, and it feels distinctively Western, in my opinion. I didn't really necessarily feel like I was watching a sort of Japanese influenced anime. It did feel a lot like I was watching a very Western. In fact, it was confusing because the first episode I was like trying to figure out, what's the feel of this world like, and Night City really feels like California, but a very dystopic, ruined version of California. And it's interesting that this show has a lot of commentary on what society has become in Night City, and it's sort of this depraved, crime-fueled, there's this huge, unsettled society of people, factions of people, and then you've got the corporate factions of Militech and Arasaka who are basically capitalizing on Night City's ruins. So I thought it had very interesting things to say about the world it was set in, and I'm sure you could elaborate more on that having played the games. Did you feel like that continued, or did it feel different?
It almost felt like an extension of the game while playing this. See, that's the thing. I've played this game so much, and now that I watch this anime, there's like certain like UI elements in the anime that make you feel like you're playing the game. So whenever one of the hackers is doing like quick hacks, it's the same like menu from the game. Whenever they look on security cameras, same thing from the game. Whenever David's getting a phone call, same as the game. Somebody will pop up in the corner, and then you'll see like the dialogue. It's really hard to divorce this from the game. And I feel like it's a good companion piece for sure. Like you said, when this anime came out, everyone wanted to play the game.
Yeah, no, it's just great to see that people are continuing to bet on making stories that are set in a world that we all may perhaps be aware of or recognize, and it's refreshing. And it to me, it felt like it will be somewhat similar to if someone made a Blade Runner story in the future set in that world. I mean, it'll always be interesting to revisit a world that's familiar, but it's great that these characters are original. The story is original, and it's contained in this 10-episode season, because quite often with the anime genre, you could go on for seasons after seasons. And one of the things I don't like about certain animes is they tend to pack in a lot of filler, and things can just be dragging for so long. But this one, on the contrary, just it just felt like it was right at your face.
If anything, it feels like you want more, and that's the sign of like a good anime, that at least it's pacing. When you watch an anime and you wish there was another season, whether or not now the creators of this show said that's it, that's the end of that storyline. If we do anything else Cyberpunk, it won't be connected at all.
Which is great. Not everything needs to be a continuation, even though it's set in the same world. It's great to have stories that have a start and a defined finish. And, there's a lot to talk about. I mean, I'm sure, do you want to, go into spoilers or?
Sure. This is, you should have already known this, but this is a spoiler discussion for Cyberpunk Edgerunners. If you haven't watched the anime, you should go do that. The general plot of the show, it opens up with a cyber psycho at the beginning of the show. And when you think about it, it's a parallel of kind of like steroid use and like bodybuilders, and where like drugs kind of make them act erratic and make them become more violent than they already are at the drop of a hat. And the very start of cyber psychosis, you start to see characters take the side effect to an extreme degree, and they end up hurting people or even killing people and not even remembering it. And it starts with your hands starting to move. And it's that connection with the robotics in your body that make you less human. And you can even see that in other characters that you get to meet, and how robotic they are and how cold to like emotions they are. We already said spoilers, so you can see the end result as Adam Smasher, which is also in the video game.
Oh yeah, he's the big bad that pops up right at the end. But before that, it's a good point that you bring up, because I think that is kind of one of the main plot points about the show and the world of Cyberpunk and Night City, is that a lot of it is about becoming more and more robotic and less human. It's all about upgrading every part of your body. Everything can be enhanced, and there's this vain obsession which takes over people. And in the case of David, I think David. Let's talk about David for a bit, because he is obviously the character, the protagonist of the story, and it starts off with him. Obviously, he's shown as a promising, talented student in the Arasaka Academy, and his mother is a hardworking paramedic trying her best to keep her dreams of him being a sort of bright student in the academy, and hopefully be able to have a successful career within the corporation. But that all changes when his mother is tragically killed in the crossfires, and that forces David to become like a man in a way, because he's had to take complete control over his destiny, of his well-being, and that means he needs to leave education and become a mercenary and try to survive. Right, a lot of it is about survival. Yeah. What did you think of David's arc as a character?
I really felt like David was like a self-insert type of character. Like you said, he's very scrappy. He was a good student, but because he was poor, he wasn't given the same luxuries that those other students were given. And once his mom dies, then he has to like really concentrate on surviving and less about school, which he hasn't completely resolved his feelings with how his mother died. And he lashes out at the other students at school. He like starts fights. And it becomes like a whole spiral of his life, where he decides, all right, so I got to make money somehow. And then he eventually gets involved with Lucy on the train when he sees her like clipping like data chips or something like that out of their heads. And he's like,
Yeah, I think that's the character that kind of changes his life. And in many ways, Lucy is, I don't know about you, but my favorite character in the show was Lucy. I thought she was really enigmatic, really interesting personality, shown as, again, this playful yet cold person who comes across as very insular, like she's protecting herself, until she meets David and introduces him to the group. Obviously, the whole thing is because he has this Sandevestein tech that he installs in his spine that allows him to become basically the Flash in real time.
Pretty much.
And that tech is something his mother steals, I believe. One of the,
she stole it to sell it to this gang, I guess. This gang of cyberpunks. And he was like, okay, well, this is some preem tech, yo. I want to have it installed. So he goes to the local Ripper doc and goes, I want this put in me. I don't want to sell it.
And that's the first instance of like seeing how brutal this whole process of upgrading yourself is, because it's literally so gory, where like the doc literally cuts a hole through his spine and just inserts this piece of tech, and you can see blood pouring out, and it's very scrappy. It's very not professional in a way. I don't know how to describe it. It's very robotic.
He's broke, so he went to the cheapest Ripper doc.
Yeah, who is basically a character on his own. That's a very shady looking doctor, and then this tech basically changes his life. But the whole thing about David's character is, I think he thinks, in his point of view, that he's special because he has a higher tolerance to cybernetics. And the fact that he can yield this piece of tech attached to his spine and use it continuously without feeling any side effects initially, right. I think that makes him think he's special in a way, when in reality...
He kind of feels invincible.
Exactly, he feels invincible. But in reality, that's not necessarily the case. And I think that's what made me think, looking at his progression throughout the story, I think he follows the typical tragic hero arc. Who's obviously set up in a way where he's quite clearly flawed, and and you could see that his downfall is in a way charted. And I don't know about you, but I was quite expecting him to die. I didn't think he would make it.
Oh, I didn't think he was going to make it either. Going back to Lucy, I personally don't like her because I like Rebecca. But I like her character design. I just like Rebecca. She's the best girl. Everybody knows that.
Rebecca,
Lucy's like character design. I like the like Netrunner aesthetic. I like that she has like a port in the back of her head for when she does one of those long dives. Yeah, I like her haircut and her style, but I don't really care for her character.
I really love her iridescent like eyes. Like you can see like a hue of various colors in her, reflecting in her eye and her hair, and it's great because each character really does feel distinctive, even though they're all kind of modern cyberpunks. But that's again shout out to the show's creative team. They've done exceptionally well making each character feel distinct. I mean, I was just looking at some of those shots where they just gang up together and walk down, and it looks so cool. Like Maine looks amazing. He's obviously the leader of the group. You've got Rebecca, who's a scene stealer. It's a shame how she just dies. That caught me off guard, by the way. I did not expect
David and Rebecca all day, and I know
she got friend zone. She got friend zone so hard.
Poor Rebecca.
I thought they were having a moment. Later down.
I love that scene where he's like knocking on her door, and she's like, "What's up, Choom?" And she's got a gun pointed at his head. And because she's short, it's like she has like this crazy angle, and she's like practically stepping on her tippy toes.
Yeah. She's
funny thing about Rebecca. So originally, when they pitched, when they were developing the show, and CDPR was like, "All right, you got to get rid of the lolly. This is an adult anime," and so Studio Trigger basically just told them straight up, "The lolly stays," and that's why Rebecca's the best girl.
Wow, I love that. I love that they fought for that because it does.
I understand why they did that, because there isn't very many like lolly-esque characters like in Cyberpunk, and in the game there obviously isn't. But I just like her character. I love her voice. It is a shame she doesn't get more screen time, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's a really grim world, and I think that
I was also devastated when she died.
Well, this whole show in general has a devastating feel to it. I mean, every action has a repercussion, and no job is unscathed, right? Someone's gonna die. There's always a cost, and I think the way the world is set up in Night City is the more you want to try to change something, the more likely you're gonna die. So. The ones who've hacked it are the ones who basically exploit by the means of survival and do what they have to do without really being caught up. So that was interesting to me to see that they established that very well ahead of being in the later episodes, that this world is hostile. It's going to have repercussions and nothing's going to be easy. That being said, I did have a few issues with the pacing of the show. I felt up until the first 6 episodes, the pacing was kind of all over the place. And the only issues I had with that was, obviously I understand that you only got 10 episodes, so you have to sort of back things and keep hitting the beats, which is great, by the way. I think they did well in terms of covering plot, but there were just few things like in the first episode you see David's mother die, I just felt like I couldn't really care much about that. Like,
right.
It didn't really
it wasn't
feel
really like built up.
It wasn't built up, and it didn't really feel like I could really care for David. And I felt like David himself you didn't really see much of him mourning or grieving about her death until obviously they do bring that back in later on towards the end, and I think that's where it was effective. But at that moment, I felt like it didn't really hook me. But obviously, I understand these are turning points or plot points that they need to meet, and the same goes with Main's death. Main's death was devastating in episode 6. Seeing him become a cyber psycho, I felt like that came out of nowhere, and there was no real build up to it. But I guess maybe that being said, that could be the whole point of the show, is the shock value. That the show has a lot of shock value at various moments, whether it's character deaths or whether it's moments where characters are, in extreme danger and you don't see it coming, and maybe that works in its favor. But what did you think about the structure?
My main criticism, I could also agree with, like, some of those things weren't very developed, is when they do the time skip. I feel like it doesn't give David's character like any favors. We lose like a lot of watching him get all chromed out, and that his training arc isn't there. There's no training arc for David. He just becomes a boy to a man in like a fortnight. Like, it doesn't.
Are you talking about before Main's death? Or
I think after Main's death, when he gets his
episode
arms.
6, right? Yeah. So episode 7, when he's literally a big built up adult.
Yeah. You're like, who's that? Is that a different character? Like, he's completely different. Like, he has like certain
he's juiced.
shots. Exactly. Like, he's been juicing. He's getting all chromed out, yo. Yeah. Like, I don't have a lot of criticisms for this show because just like The Fall Guy, it's very it's a popcorn type of show. It's a very, you just this is a good show, and then at some points you go like, that's deep, isn't it? It's like something like, if I was like 14, this would be a 10 out of 10, like, for sure. Like, it's going a million miles a minute. It's feeling like Fooly Cooly. It's feeling like Dead Leaves. It's feeling like all these shows that are so like crazy, chaotic, random for the sake of being chaotic, crazy, random, and just gory as all hell, like straight out of Elfen Lied. Like, it has all these like moving parts to the show, and some of it doesn't necessarily land, which is why I'm not giving it a 10 out of 10. But that being said, I still feel like this is definitely worth Anime of the Year of 2023. Even though Demon Slayer was really good that season.
No, true, for various reasons, and it's not just because it's an anime that has I think a lot of it goes down to the fact that it's made, it's rather distributed by Netflix, and that does factor in to an extent, because not only are you working with probably a bigger budget than a regular distributor in Japan, maybe, I don't know. You could probably comment on that more. But also, you're given the creative liberty of not having to worry about censorship. So I think that really
it definitely shows, for sure. If you showed this on Japanese television instead of Netflix, we would have had all of the macabre scenes. They would have all had like a bright shining light over them, or a bright shining shadow over them. Or if you're in China, they just change all the blood to white, because you can't show blood on Chinese TV, I guess, something like that.
Or worse. Yep. Or worse,
yeah, exactly.
They would just cut it. They just
or cut it. Or black bars. Or you'd have 10-minute episodes because people are dying like every 5 seconds.
Yeah. It's, I think, yeah. So the fact that they had the creative liberty, the creators could express how brutal the world is, and visually, I must say, like, I loved the color grade in the film. I mean, in the show. Throughout, there's some amazing use of color scheme to light up moments, whether it's an action, whether it's the characters. You can see the hues reflecting their borders.
Yeah.
You can see the nightscape. Scenes on that was a standout in episode 2, I believe. And also,
at the end.
Also the end. Yeah, when Lucy basically, well, she kind of hoodwinks him at the beginning by taking him in her apartment and then using this sort of virtual reality device to get them in the moon, and she expresses her desire to travel to the moon as her main dream. And he's really feeling the character. He's really feeling Lucy, and then he gets caught up, and then the crew arrive. It turns out it was all a shtick to get his devastating tech.
Yeah, I can't remember Rebecca's brother's name because I didn't really like his character because he just seems sleazy and gross. But he even dies.
He does. He dies. He gets killed by a cyber psycho.
Yep. And like the cyber psycho is like pissing like on a garbage can or whatever, and then he's like overreacting about it, and then the guy cyber psycho's all over him and kills him just out of nowhere.
Kills him, and I think that is one of my other nitpicks with the show. Is I felt like if you really look at it from an objective point of view, aside from David and Lucy, who are given the most attention in terms of developing their character, their story, trying to go deep into what makes them who they are, I feel like a result of that emphasis on them is the lack of development the supporting characters have. And I think when you're looking at the pacing, how rapid it is, when you're looking at how quick they are trying to get over the plot and the characters, I just couldn't care less about some of these other supporting characters when they got killed off. Obviously, Rebecca's an exception because she's really memorable, and she is the greatest. But I mean, there's this character that popped up out of nowhere called Falco, I believe, the getaway driver. He just shows up out of nowhere. He just shows up out of nowhere. Could not really care much. Exactly. And then this other character called Kiwi, who's part of David's crew. She's cool.
She's the other Netrunner. I like her. She's got that like knot mask, like it's a part of her face.
Yeah, it affects how she speaks. Yeah, it affects how she speaks, and she's got more of a robotic voice. But I mean, obviously, apart from her betrayal, which is key, but I couldn't really, again, care much about her and her sudden change of heart, like at the end when she gets obviously betrayed by Faraday. And I think like a lot of it was predictable. I don't know about you, but especially with Faraday's character, like the minute he shows up, played by Giancarlo Esposito in the dub, he's the fixer who's obviously doing the dirty work for the corporations, Militech. When you see him and when you see his interaction with Maine, and then what I didn't understand is why David would want to work with him. Knowing how much of just a crazy character he was.
He wants to make it big. I think that's like his whole thing. Like he wants to be known as a cyberpunk. He wants to be known as a great Edgerunner. All these terms. He wants to be known as a legend. I think that's really what it is. It's also about like the money. Like he wants to take these big jobs. He wants to be the talk of the town. He wants to be this big kahuna. you know. That's why I think he takes
I think
the
part
job.
of it, true, I do agree with that, but I think a lot of it is also character motivations a bit muddled with David, because at some point it also comes down to what he feels his mother wanted for him, and then it goes down to what he feels Maine wanted for him. So he does kind of get mixed up in those two desires from the two characters who probably impact him the most on an emotional level. But I don't know. I think do you think it's a reflection of just Night City and this constant obsession to just improve yourself or upgrade yourself?
Yeah, it's
or maybe I'm reading too much into it. I don't know.
Yeah, there's an entire like underlying fact that everyone wants to get rich or die trying word, and either that or replace all the parts of your body that are weak and feeble, and you want to become, stronger and live longer and all that. Which the funny thing is, when you get completely borged out, your life expectancy is pretty nil, unless you're Atom Smasher.
Unless you're Adam freaking Smasher.
Yeah, after watching that anime, I went back into Cyberpunk and
to kill him.
Adam Smasher's a boss in the game. He's like one of the final
and you
bosses.
Killed him.
Absolutely. I took so they have weapons in the game that are like dildo bats. I took one of those and I ran at him and I said, they're shit weapons. But I was like, this is for Rebecca, you fucking asshole. And then I just beat the shit out of him.
It's funny. I read a few forums where a lot of people did what you just said. Like they all wanted revenge, and I think they made Rebecca's weapons available in the game, and a lot of people
her shotgun
used that. Her shotgun,
to kill Adam Smasher. That's justice for sure. Yeah, there's a little bit more. There's even like a David Martinez like jacket you can get in the game, and there's even you like call Falco, and you like talk to him about something. You talk to one of the fixers about David Martinez, and you're like, oh yeah. And then they have the Cyber Psycho video like in the game, so you can like put the headset thing on, and then you can watch basically the first opening of the anime, which I thought was kind of
cool.
neat.
That's nice. That's it's great to see that they acknowledge that in the game. I don't think a lot of people do it. I don't know. Do a lot of games do that? Where if they've had
sometimes, and especially with mods, if the companies don't like put an update and do that, then the modding community definitely will. They will add Lucy's hair, or they'll add like for Fallout, they added in like day one. They had like the backpack that another Lucy had in the Fallout show. They just added it to the game. And then there was like some big like updates and stuff like that for the game that broke a bunch of mods and pissed everyone off. But it's neither here nor there.
Yeah, interesting, very interesting. I was just reading about that, and is the game still popular? I mean, I'm sure like the spike happened 2 years ago when the anime came out.
Well, so Cyberpunk. Last year there was another spike because the DLC of Phantom Liberty with Idris Elba. That came out, so everyone was playing it. In fact, I think they won a game award, or they got nominated at least for a game award for Phantom Liberty. And I played it as well. I thought it was very well done. In fact, I think all the story in the Cyberpunk video game is probably the best part of it, especially when you got Keanu Reeves inside your head. And just hearing like any of his lines, when he plays that character Johnny Silverhand, it's awesome. It's rock and roll, as he would say. Let's Delta and jet the hell out of here. It's very cool.
It is. I need to play the game. I haven't, like I said, I couldn't back then, and then I just forgot about this game until
get it at a
this
discount.
anime. I'm sure I can get a good discount now.
Definitive Game of the Year edition.
Was there any thoughts you had about the way they structured the show, where the first 6 episodes were kind of like his progression into getting into the team, and then I think the last 4 episodes were more of a chase towards the end?
Yeah, it kind of felt like they were like dragging you along. They were like, okay, well, we know the story isn't going to end in daffodils and daisies and everyone's going to happily get married. But
which is a good thing, by the way.
It is. It doesn't feel like it's all like egging, for sure. I think some of the breakneck speed, I think some stuff's lost. But, it is what it is. I felt like the show could have definitely used another episode or 2 to really, like, flesh out maybe some of, like, the backstories of, like, the side characters or something like that. But, yeah, I like this anime. I feel like it's a good watch. Definitely show your significant others if they like cyberpunk stuff and they don't mind gore.
That's the main point, gore, because this show,
over the top.
It's like they went to the creators and they were like, all right, how much gore do you want in the show? And the guy was just like, yes.
Yeah, they just said yes. Yeah, that's fair.
But quite often, that may not necessarily work, and it can sort of lose its effect. But I didn't feel that way. I thought the
I
gore
felt like
worked.
it was part of the universe. Like it was very. Anybody could die other than the plot armored characters until the very end.
Yeah, true.
It felt like Attack on Titan, where they can die.
Yeah. I must say, I was just thinking about the earlier episodes, and I felt, I mean, it didn't work out that way, but I felt that originally, the kid who bullies him at the start,
Yep.
I thought the son of the CEO of Arasaka, who obviously gets captured, I thought the son would pop up again and be like an antagonist looking for revenge. I don't know. I thought.
Well, I think you watch a lot of anime, Adi, and that's clearly where you're going.
I don't know. I was trying to, at the start, I was trying to see what route are they gonna take, and then there was this whole emphasis on they were trying to get him back to the academy, and I thought he'd fall for that trap, but he was like, nope. I'm just going to delete you guys. Just going to join this team, do my own thing. Don't care about the academy.
A very short anime if he would have did that. He went right to Arasaka.
Yeah, if it was longer, perhaps you could have seen maybe those threads get explored. But nope, yeah. I think it's good. It was pretty fast-paced, went along. I liked Main's character. I thought he reminded me of I don't know if you played the games Duke Nukem.
Duke Nukem.
Yeah, Duke Nukem was
I'm familiar. I never played him.
This guy who kind of looks like Bane in a way. He's got like a buzz cut, and he's
talking about.
He's
Duke?
like a Duke Nukem, yeah, and. Yeah, it just felt very reminiscent of that. I played the games when I was a kid, so it was it was kind of a callback to that. But I liked his aesthetic. I thought he played a supporting role to good effect.
He's like a pseudo father figure,
sort of, because someone has to fill that role.
Right. He ain't got no dad.
He ain't got no parents. What did you think of the romance between him and Lucy?
What romance? I didn't feel like it was really fleshed out. Sure, they got together and whatever, but I felt like it was very This isn't the show I'm looking for romance.
And the time jump didn't help either.
No, it's just like, oh, they're together now. Okay, cool.
That accelerated their relationship.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel earned.
No, not at all. He got the girl.
He got the girl, and I just felt like that kind of hampered Lucy as a character in a way, because I felt like at the start when you see her, she's kind of playful, kind of mysterious,
right,
kind of cold, and then as soon as she gets with him, she kind of becomes really emotional.
She becomes like a decoration
in a way, and I think that's one of the things I didn't really like about what they did with her character, but I thought she was cool. The fact that she had a past, obviously. One of the things they could explore with any other character was her past of being a net runner, brain dance or something.
Called. She was brought up in Arasaka. They could have definitely extrapolated on that for sure. How she was like one of the orphans that was brought to be a net runner to like run this old tech, try to go on the old internet. Like they could have did a whole thing about that. Other than like the couple minutes we get of it, I feel like they definitely could have developed her character. She kind of becomes a damsel in distress at the big end of it.
Yeah.
Which sucks for a character.
It does. But there has to be consequences, and we can talk about, I guess, the last 3 episodes is more centered around him sort of falling for the trap of Faraday, setting him up on this ambush. What did you think of the choice of the show sort of...
well, I didn't necessarily see it coming because a lot of anime are very formulaic in how they do like a structure, how they have to beat the great villain. And I didn't really see like that coming necessarily. Like obviously I saw that eventually he was going to Borg out and become a cyber psycho. Who could have saw that coming? Once you start adding gorilla arms and you have the Sandevistan and
unrecognizable.
Exactly. You're no longer a person. You're a machine. You're practically Atom Smasher. In fact, his old Ripper Doc even calls him, "You could be the new Atom Smasher 2.0."
Yeah, I think that scene was quite emotional in a way. Not emotional for David, but the doctor, when he gives him his meds and tells him, "I know you ain't coming back anyways." So there's a lot of foreshadowing in the show.
Right.
And do you think it works, or do you think that makes it predictable?
I think it works. I don't think it makes it... like certain parts are predictable, but necessarily like how the story is going to flesh out isn't necessarily predictable. Like we all know he's eventually going to die because that's kind of like how the plot's progressing, like how he's becoming less human, and he's going to exactly do what Maine did and kill somebody he loves or kill somebody he didn't mean to. In fact, he does end up doing that a couple times. Ends up just blowing somebody's head off and he didn't mean to. Like just his mission, like when you could have negotiated something down by talking, you chose violence.
Yeah, violence has become second nature to his character, and has this sort of Scarface-like end to his arc.
Overindulgence,
and I think that's quite a classic. Like I said, like tragic hero arc. We've seen this a lot of times, with various films and TV shows. The character, makes it rags to riches, and then overindulgence is the end, losing sight of the bigger picture. But I feel like the whole idea of David thinking he's special was, I think, his biggest flaw. I think his delusion to cybernetic tolerance is what makes him a flawed hero.
Right.
A flawed, tragic hero. But yeah. Any other thoughts?
Nope, not really. I'm ready to give a rating if you are.
Yeah, let's go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So, like I said before, previously when I watched Cyberpunk Edgerunners, I gave it a 7 out of 10. On the second run through, I think I probably made that because of what they did to Rebecca. I'm going to bump it up to an 8 out of 10, which I know that is, I'm starting to feel like that's like my calling card is that 8 out of 10. It feels like the Mal, like it's a 7. The ending isn't what I wanted, but it's what I expected.
Okay.
I expected David to go out in a blaze of glory.
What ending do you want?
I wanted him to dump Lucy and get with Rebecca, and then they just drive out into the sunset. That's what I wanted.
That would be a complete deviation from everything they've been doing.
I feel like it would have been perfect because it would have been straight into Studio Trigger's like their wheelhouse, just like random ending that comes out of nowhere. Nobody became a spaceship, like Kill la Kill. Spoilers for Kill la Kill.
Okay.
The Academy becomes a gigantic mech. It's like, what? Or Tenka Toppa Gurren Lagann, they start fighting in space and they start fighting galaxies. So, Darling in the Franxx, they become gigantic celestial beings and they start fighting. Nobody remembers these endings.
So this sudden change in the ending where there's this massive, complete deviation. Is that how
I would have
Trigger...
loved that. There's a lot of people that would have hated that, though. Especially if you aren't shipping Rebecca like I am.
I don't think a lot of people would... I mean, I'm sure Rebecca is quite a beloved character in the show, but I don't think a lot of people would have expected that to happen. But maybe it would have worked. Who knows?
That would have been weird.
Weird? I don't know. If they had to infuse her with David earlier on, maybe they would have that sort of an organic build up to it.
Right, you'd have to completely change the show.
Yeah, you'd have to plan and see it, right? You had to plan it in earlier.
Right, like once he starts going, once he starts borging out, you're kind of past where he can still live.
Yeah.
Like once he starts taking those, he has ejections hidden in his coat. Like once he gets to that point, he ain't gonna survive.
Once he loses his coat. I mean the jacket. I don't know why I said court. Once he, maybe I'm becoming a cyber psycho. No,
Adi, are you borging out?
I'm borging out. The minute he loses the jacket, his mother's jacket, that's when you know he's gone. He's completely gone. No longer human. No return. Whatever's left is very few shreds of humanity, and that's his motivation for Lucy, which is, I guess, his dream is to see Lucy fulfill her dream, and that's a satisfactory ending for him. Not sure how Lucy feels about that, but let's get to my rating.
Sure.
When I watched the first few episodes, like I said, the pacing, for me, it took a while to really adjust. And initially I did feel like it was going to be a 7 out of 10 for me, but I think this show is distinctively divided into 2 parts, and that is after episode 6. You can see it goes to a different direction. I quite like the series, despite my nitpicks with how underdeveloped some of the character motivations are, or the supporting characters not being fleshed out as much as I'd like to, or the villains being a bit surface level. Despite all those things, I really appreciated the art, the music, the visuals were amazing. the creative liberty to express. Just that itself is refreshing to see. A lot of shows are, like you said, especially in anime, they're formulaic. They tend to stick to a structure and play it safe. Or they would want to see a happy ending where the the hero gets, the girl gets what he wants, beats the bad guy. But yeah, I thought this show, what I liked was it was rooted in a reality that was consistent throughout, and rooted in a reality which was very synchronized with the world of Night City. And that was good to see. I liked the fact that there were consequences, even though characters were being disposed and killed, and it was shocking at times. But I felt like it was in sync with the world and how brutal it was. And for me, in the end, I'd like to give it 8 out of 10 as well. I think this is also a show that is benefits from being a production that maybe doesn't have to conform to certain anime restrictions in terms of censorship or distribution. And you can see it's high quality. Technically, it's great. I love the art. Like I said, I thought the voice performances at times were all right. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But I liked characters like Rebecca, Giancarlo Esposito as Faraday was great. So awesome. Yeah, he was really a standout, even though maybe his character was kind of predictable. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed this series, and I think we need more series that are, in the anime genre that are kind of contained like this. And when I say that, I don't mean a series where, they just got canceled in the end and they couldn't make a season 2, so there's only a season 1 and that's it. I mean like a series that, has a defined start and end and contains it within a season. I think a mini series in a way. I think more of that in the anime genre would be nice, and it's a refreshing take on, and the fact that it's based in a world that's familiar and in part of the Cyberpunk game makes it even more interesting, not just to anime fans, but also people who play video games or people who are fans of the Cyberpunk genre. So in that regard, I really liked it. I thought the ending, like you said, you expected it. And I know a lot of people may be upset about why it had to end that way, but I thought it was completely fitting. And I enjoyed it. I would recommend it for sure.
Yep, Adam Smasher's out there.
He's out there. But he's there to be killed over and over again in the game.
Exactly. You get your revenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that being said, I have some anime recommendations because, of course, I do. So the first season of Psycho Pass, done by a completely different studio. Not even sure what studio it is. It's another cyberpunky type of show. Has a lot of the same themes. More about like morality. So like in Psycho Pass, it's about these like cops that have these guns that are called Devastators. And when you point your Devastator at a criminal, they have like a crime coefficient. And if the crime coefficient is high enough, it becomes a lethal gun. And when it becomes a lethal gun, when you shoot it, they explode. Their guts go everywhere.
Ooh, okay.
So a lot of it has to do with like who gets to decide who has a high crime coefficient.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first season. More seasons that show it kind of gets silly. But Ghost in the Shell, the 1995 movie. I know there's a TV show.
About to come to that. I think, yeah.
It's a classic of the genre. It's a good watch.
You can't be a cyberpunk fan. You can't be a fan of this genre if you've not seen Ghost in the Shell. That is like seminal.
Akira.
And Akira. Those two are, for me, they're like up there as the ones that pioneered.
In fact, they put his Kurosaka motorcycle in Cyberpunk.
Ooh, that would be so cool to play with.
And of course, there's plenty of movies we could recommend.
Yeah, there's so many.
Let's hear them, Adi. You got them all. You got the whole list.
Well, obviously, Blade Runner. Go for it. Blade Runner. Total Recall. Definitely. I was expecting aliens in this show, by the way. I'm surprised. Really? I'm surprised there weren't any, but I guess it makes sense.
I don't know if there's any aliens in the universe.
There are people that Borg them. They modify themselves to maybe look like aliens. Like there's an entire people that I want to be a cat person, so they like get like some mods on their body that make them look like a cat.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Weird.
There's no limit to what you can do in Cyberpunk. You can
no limit at all.
Sure.
Yeah.
Human,
I do want to recommend I could go on about the list and say, yeah, watch Matrix, watch RoboCop, blah blah blah. That's
the first Matrix.
You guys already know about those films by now, but I'd actually recommend a filmmaker whose filmography would be in sync with this, and that's, I believe, Neil Blomkamp, if I'm getting this right. Neil Blomkamp. He's a South African filmmaker, and he's done films like District 9, Chappie.
Oh, yeah, I know you're talking about.
Elysium.
Chappie. Yolandi Vissa. I love that movie.
Yeah.
There's two rappers in it from South Africa, and I listen to their music.
Yeah. They're the sort of parents in a way, like.
That movie's awesome because they're like sitting in the car while their music's playing because they have the rights to it, and then you're hearing like Yolandi and Ninja rap, and you're like, they're right there.
Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, check out his filmography. Something distinctive.
I've seen a lot of that. I've seen both those movies.
Mm-hmm. That's good to hear. All right. So I guess this concludes our episode on Cyberpunk Edgerunners.
So what are we going to be watching next, Adi?
Okay, so for our next venture, I'd like to go to Mars and explore this French animated film called Mars Express. Mars Express is a film directed by Jeremy Perrin, and it's about an investigator, a private cop, who's hired by a businessman to track down a hacker. Where on Mars they explore the planet's capital city, where they find a missing girl who holds a secret about the robots that threaten to change the face of the universe. So another cyberpunk genre film, which I must say looks really captivating. But we'll catch you for that episode.
Awesome. So if you don't want to be spoiled you said it was called Mars Express, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
If you do not want to be spoiled from Mars Express, whenever that episode comes out, don't get spoiled. These episodes are recorded once every 1 to 2 weeks, and we put them out when we put them out.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah, sort of, kind of. We're still figuring it out. We got sort of a schedule.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
All right. So that will be, ciao, matane. See ya, Space Cowboy.
See ya.
You got anything else, Adi?
Oh, no. See you for then. See you for the next episode. Thank you for listening.